Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Day today is the 4th of November. May the 4th be with you. That's what they say. Of November, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a big show for you guys today. The last time I'm going to get to talk to you guys until the election happens. Maybe we'll talk about that. I don't know. Use the timestamps to your advantage on that one. Do we circle back to the election at any point today? I'm curious. I'm curious to know. No idea where this one's going to go. But, folks, I got to tell you something up top. Really don't want to leave you hanging here. I know why you're all here. If you are a fan of the National Football League, then you would have seen that the Detroit Lions are now comfortably in control of their division, the toughest division in football right now, the NFC North, after knocking off the Green Bay Packers today on the road in Lambeau Field. The first time winning 3 consecutive games in Lambeau Field in Green Bay on the road since between 1986 and 1991. So basically, the last time that the Lions won this many consecutive games in Green Bay, Bird and Magic were kind of on their way out doing their thing. The Bad Boys were winning championships, and then Michael Jordan got his first one in 1991. That is how long it has been. And then since 1992 to 2021, the Lions were 3-25 in Lambeau Field, which means, as somebody who was born in 1998, for literally the duration of my entire life, we have sucked. We have been bad and awful, all three at the same time in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, that's not a thing anymore. Long gone are the days of being like, fuck, we got to go to Green Bay this week. Shit, fuck. No, now it's like, oh, cool. So we have dinner figured out tonight, so we don't have to. Okay, so it's Green Bay. Green Bay is on the menu tonight. Yeah. So how about? And I'm not thinking about this at all. How about Xavier McKinney earlier in the week going to the media and being like, I actually am not a fan of and don't respect the Lions for the way that they embarrass and disrespect their opponents. Running trick plays up 40 points. Hey, Xavier McKinney, maybe should have said that to your team. Maybe should have said that one in the locker room and not in the media well, because, whoops, record scratch freeze frame. You're probably wondering how Xavier McKinney and the Green Bay Packers got here. They fucking suck. They're bad, and I hate them. Fuck the Packers. They suck and they're bad, and I'm sure that when they have to go when they're playing on the road and they got to go from like a hotel to the stadium, they probably got to take like 15 buses, right? Because all the buses are like this big and they can only fit like 7 players. Honestly, everybody on the Packers should be wearing a helmet. A bigger helmet, like a Spaceballs helmet, bigger than what they already are, because they suck and they stink and they're bad, and I fucking hate them, and fuck the Packers. Have I said any of that? All 15 of the things that I just said are all true. The Detroit Lions now 7-1 on the season. Packers fans should have led with this. Skip ahead. This segment is not going to be for you. I will be getting my shit off here because this feels amazing. Mainly because going into this game, not going to lie, I was worried. I was a little bit worried. I knew that the weather was going to be a little bit and I knew that just with how the Packers have been playing this year, like they've just been really gutsy and they've been pulling out like just weird wins. You're like, wow, the Packers just kind of keep winning games. Like we started the season, wasn't it week 1 against Philadelphia and Brazil that Jordan Love gets hurt, and you're like, oh wow, so they're going to be food for the next few weeks with Malik Willis at quarterback, because Malik Willis just stinks. Like, talk about an agent who needs to be the highest paid agent in football for getting Malik Willis drafted as high as they did. No, I guess it just kind of turned out that Tennessee actually just sucks, and that is just not where he needed to be, because Malik Willis was very much survivable as the Packers quarterback, and they were winning games. And so I'm like, please let that motherfucker come in this game. Please. And it like almost felt like he was, I don't need to harp on this too much because it's Malik Willis, and at the end of the day, who cares, right? So the Packers go into this game. No Jair Alexander. Oh my God. So Brian Branch gets tossed, right? The Lions get absolutely hosed. The Packers trying as desperately as they can to fix this game, to rig this game. Every player must be counted unless you're a Packers fan and you slip a 20 to Clete Blakeman and you're like, hey, why don't you toss Brian Branch out of this game for like a hit that it was definitely unsportsmanlike conduct, or what did they, not unsportsmanlike conduct, so unnecessary roughness is what they called it. Like, yeah, he did definitely go helmet to helmet. That's tough. That's not good. and they throw the flag for unnecessary roughness. And then, like, what felt like an hour later, they were like, oh, also, New York makes a phone call. They send it in to Clete Blakeman on the field. And they're like, hey, get this fucker out of the game. Ban him from the rest of this game. Brian Branch is not allowed to play in the rest of this game. Tried to win the game by cheating, and the Packers still couldn't do it. The reason that I'm especially pissed about it, there are two reasons. One, if Brady in the booth is saying that it was a horseshit call, like he didn't lead with the crown of his helmet, like yes, he did go helmet to helmet, and New York was like, oh, well, you know, he had time to pull off and like not make that hit. Yeah, when you go in like ultra mega slow motion, it looked like he had an hour to pull off from that hit, and then he didn't. And the second reason that I'm especially pissed is because I'm taping this immediately after Matthew Stafford bitched the Seattle Seahawks in overtime, pulls off that win. And I see the defensive back for the Seahawks, Kobe Bryant. For you non-NFL fans, yes, Kobe Bryant, he also wears number 8. Made the exact same hit, if not with like a little bit more helmet, and they didn't even flag him for that. And so I'm like, okay, so which one is it? Is it a flag and we need to kick this guy out of the game and he's never allowed to play football for the rest of the, well, just for the just for the rest of the game? Or is it not a flag? Like, you know what I mean? Like, which one is it? Because it can't be both. Because it can't be both except if it was a game that occurred on November 3rd, 2024. Then I guess actually it can be both because it was. The Lions did it again. The Lions did it again where they shit on the Packers. Now, if you look at the box score and you're just doing like a numbers thing, you're like, how did the Packers like not win this game in the second half? How did they not pull away? I'm still kind of trying to figure that out too, honestly, because if you just look at it from a yards perspective, you know, we kind of started to play a little bit soft coverage in the second half, and then offensively, we were just really conservative running the ball. Yeah, you can absolutely chalk that up to the weather, but you know what I mean? Like, even when in the first half, when the weather was also bad, the weather was bad for the whole game, and Jared Goff is like slinging that motherfucking thing. And it's like, well, they didn't really have to not throw the ball. They didn't have to not throw the ball. They could get away with just running the football because that was working for them the whole game. And then on the opposite end, again, like Green Bay is just kind of able to like check down their way down the field. And that's exactly what they were doing. Dude, I was so pissed. I was like, 24-6 is going to look so good. And then they score, and I'm like, all right, fine. 24-12 is cool, or 24-13 with the extra point. And then they're going for 2, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because they're not going to get this, and 24-12 looks great. And then they get it, and I'm like, oh, 24-14? All right. I mean, a win's a win, and beggars certainly can't be choosers here. I'm just happy that, like, I'm still very much taking this thing week by week, and it just feels good to be 2-0 in divisional play. Are the Packers 0-2 now? I'm not being funny and like trying to be an asshole here, but are they 0-2? They lost to Minnesota already, didn't they? So like we're big time, capital C, chilling at the top of the NFC North. And okay, so now we're at the point where, are we sure that the Lions aren't the best team in the NFL in week 9, right? The week 9 is concluding. By the time you're hearing this, the only game that is left to be played is the Monday night game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Kansas City Chiefs, by the way, the only other team, there are a few, but one of the only other teams that you would contest are actually the best team in the NFL. I don't know, off the top of my head, do you guys want to unpack this on the fly? The Lions thing, I don't need to explain too much, but just for all intents and purposes, right? Just to cover all my bases. They're 7-1, have now won 6 games in a row. Coming into Sunday's game against Green Bay, in their last 5 games combined, had more offensive touchdowns than incompletions. I'm going to say that again, don't worry. The Detroit Lions, in the last 5 games, coming into their game against Green Bay, had more offensive touchdowns at 21 than they did incompletions at 18. What the hell? Huh? I don't even need to explain anything else because that's insane. But if you want me to throw another log on the fire, I can absolutely do that. Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, their last 30 targets, Jared Goff throwing to Amon-Ra St. Brown, his last 30 targets, all completions. There's not one ball that sailed. There wasn't one that was a drop. It's in traffic and he kind of gets hit. The ball gets jarred loose. Nope. The last 30 targets from Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown have all been completions. How damn fun was that? We'll get back to the best teams in the NFL in just a second. How damn fun was that? Watching Amon-Ra get chippy with all of the, well, first of all, with all the players, but also with the fans a little bit. He hates them. He absolutely hates them. And I love the way doing like a damn, not even a handstand. He's doing a headstand in the end zone after he scores that first touchdown. What the? That's the coolest celebration. I wanted a Lambeau leap so bad, but that's the coolest celebration I've ever seen in my life. Are you kidding me? The funniest part to me is that Amon-Ra has done such a good job of embracing the divisional rivalries and being like, I hate Green Bay. Like, fucking hates Green Bay. Showed up to the game with a hoodie that said Green Bay sucks, which thank God we won because that would have aged so poorly. But shout out to him because that was an incredible play. Not like, you to get what I'm saying there. And then he hates the Bears. Doesn't care that much about the Vikings, though. So what is it about the Bears and the Packers? It's not just about the rivalry shit. It's that his brother played for those two teams. Equinemius played for those two teams. Which, brother, shout out to their dad and their mom. Shout out to their parents, Amon-Ra and Equinemius. What's their other brother's name? Osiris. Equinemius, Amon-Ra, and Osiris. That's the coolest trio of son names ever. It's hell of a lot better than Peyton, Eli, and Cooper. Boo. Boo. You guys are from the South. Where are they from? Where are Amon-Ra's parents from? I know, like, Germany, but, like, where is... His mom's from Germany, but where's the dad from? Doesn't matter. Those are just sick-ass names. Anyways, let's get back on the road here. So, okay, there's a pretty compelling case to be made that the Lions, after 9 weeks of the NFL season, are the best team in the NFL. Cannot believe that I'm saying that. In a lot of ways I can, but you know what I mean? Let's talk about the Chiefs a little bit. The defense, it's the defense. That's what it's been this year. And Patrick Mahomes on the opposite end isn't like sleepwalking, but he certainly picks his spots and he doesn't feel compelled to do the 50 touchdown season that he's had, when he's won MVPs. Because it's like what Mahomes is doing instead is, it's a 3rd and 5, and I'm going to make this, it's the shit on the margins, the winning plays on the margins, like it's 3rd and 5, and that's when he does the scramble, right? The down and distance is like 2nd and 12. They've been thrown off schedule, but he's going to throw the ball to the sticks and get it to like 3rd and 2, right? Get him in a good situation, put the ball in a shoebox. Like, it's just the little things that Mahomes is doing this year and really assessing things, zooming out in a way that is just like a play-by-play basis. And again, on the opposite end, like the Chiefs' run defense has been amazing. It's been lights out. And it's interesting to see how valuable the lesson was a season ago for NFL fans, where 365 days ago was kind of the same thing from the Chiefs, where like statistically Mahomes, you were kind of like, what? Like, huh? You're rubbing your eyes like a damn Looney Tunes character looking at his numbers being like, who is this guy? But the Chiefs were still really good. And 365 days ago, people were like, okay, so this is it. They've kind of they're on the tail end of whatever we thought was going to happen to them. And like, maybe the Chiefs like aren't that good. And then they won a fucking Super Bowl. And we've learned our lesson from that. Narratively, as a culture, we've learned that the Chiefs may kind of look weird throughout the regular season, but guess what? Going into this Monday night game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're still undefeated. Still have not lost a game. So it's going to be hard to not put them in that conversation, record aside, right? They still have Patrick Mahomes. You could talk about the Bills a little bit. These last few weeks, they've been lights out. The game today was really fun to watch. Josh Allen had a touchdown pass within like the 5-yard line where he just kind of like flipped the ball. He did like that Patrick Mahomes-esque like push where he just kind of like, which is a very visual gag for our audio-only listeners right now. He just kind of goes, But the tight end, credit to him, he was able to navigate the ball and somehow catch it in the end zone. The Bills have looked awesome. Shout out to Keon Coleman, Spartan Dog. The Florida State shit did not happen. Who else would we talk about? We would talk about the Ravens. We would absolutely talk about the Ravens. Throttled the Browns this week. Poor Jameis. He's officially thrown 100 interceptions in his NFL career. That's really too bad because he's just like the people's quarterback. You know what I mean? The Ravens' defenses look kind of weird at certain points this season, but they still have Lamar Jackson. And for all intents and purposes, they also have Derrick Henry, who, what the hell? Derrick Henry is still awesome? I mean, dude, you said that like you didn't know that and like you learned it this week. No, but it's just like, fuck, they have Derrick Henry. When I was watching him today, we were watching all the games on Red Zone, and every time they cut to the Ravens game, Derrick Henry is doing something stupid. And I finally had this realization today where I was like, every time I watch him, there's just like something about him that I can't really put my finger on. And I mean this in a good way, right? We'll get there in a second. Well, we'll get there right now. I think I would put Derrick Henry in in the top 3 running backs that I've been alive for, that I've seen in my entire life. Fuck. As I'm saying this, I'm forgetting who the other guy was. So we're going to have to figure it out on the fly. The first guy was no, it wasn't Sean Alexander. It was LaDainian Tomlinson. Sean Alexander was awesome, but wasn't that kind of like a quick burst? Like what we think of historically with running backs, where it's like you get 5 good years out of them if you're lucky. Wasn't that kind of what happened with Sean Alexander? I would put LaDainian Tomlinson in there 100%. And then I would put Derrick Henry in there. And this is where I'm like, shit, I had such a good comprehensive list earlier. Now I just kind of got to talk myself. This is going to piss me off so much. This is going to make me so mad. Like Jerome Bettis, like is sneaky in there, but that was just more out of like a power thing, like a short yardage situation. I loved him. Clinton Portis was kind of the same way. I'm doing a really good job of concealing this, despite the fact that I have mentioned it like 6 times in the last 30 seconds. I'm getting really fucking mad that I can't remember. I should have written this down. But I would put Derrick Henry in the 3 best running backs that I've ever seen in my life. The longevity piece of this whole thing has been crazy. I mean, he's been in the NFL for damn near 10 years, and he's just kind of been the same guy the whole time. You know what I mean? And then if you're Baltimore, you also have like Zay Flowers, like really coming into his own in a really meaningful way. So we've talked about 2 AFC teams. Let's talk about some NFC teams. Philadelphia's looked pretty good the last couple weeks. I'm getting a little bit worried, like chill out. I was really on board with the whole #EaglesAreOver party. I was really excited for that. Just because I hate Nick Sirianni. I don't want Philadelphia sports to ever be successful, ever. They're just annoying. But then they put on the Kelly Green uniforms and you're like, all right, that's fine. You can be good as a treat. You can be good this week as a treat, and then it like kind of felt like maybe they were going to smoke that game, and then they did not, and then they absolutely did not smoke that game. Let's talk about the real thing from that Eagles game. So Saquon Barkley had the probably most what the fuck move I've ever seen in my life, period. I'm talking all-time bulletin board, generationally defining moves evading a tackler that I have ever seen in my life from Saquon Barkley, like on some real Jackie Chan shit. I can't include the clip because it'll get, I'll get sniped for it, but it won't be hard to find. Saquon Barkley does like a 180 hurdle over a defender. I gasped the first time I said, what? If I want to, here's some power rankings for you. Saquon Barkley's move today is I feel very comfortable saying the craziest shit I've ever seen in a football game in my entire life. If we rewind the clock a little bit, I was watching the Braxton Miller spin against Virginia Tech, the year that they moved Braxton out to wide receiver. And if you care about college football, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe 2015 is maybe when that was, something around there. I was in high school when that happened. The Braxton Miller spin move. And he didn't invent a spin move, right? We're talking about Saquon Barkley like inventing something today that we've never seen before. But it was just so crisp, and the way that it, you know what I mean? It was really defining if you were watching that live, or if that was something that, was on your radar at the time. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And then the other one, to just go back in time a little bit further to the early 2010s, Trent Richardson had a dead leg against Ole Miss that to this day is burned in my brain because I was in middle school when that happened. Right. And Trent Richardson did not invent the dead leg, but he certainly popularized it in a way for people my age that was like, holy shit, we can do this thing to evade a tackler. And can I give you my most boomer take on the whole Saquon Barkley 180 hurdle thing? My most boomer take on the whole thing. I don't know if this is just me being softened up as a parent, but like doing jackass stunts in the middle of an NFL game is all fun and games until somebody turns into Christopher Reeve. You know what I mean? Until somebody doesn't have feeling in their arms or their legs and their you know what I mean? In their extremities. And then don't try this at home, folks. Saquon Barkley might be the only man in America, nay, the world, that could do what he did. And you're like, well, this seems like a gross overreaction. It might be. I'm just saying the 2 things that I just mentioned, well, the Braxton Miller thing doesn't count. I remember being in late middle school, early high school, and kids like going out of their way to try dead legs, especially when you were playing on a turf field and the turf monster would get you, and motherfuckers started tearing their ACLs. right? Kids, do not try this at home. I remember being a quarterback in high school football when Johnny Manziel was a thing, when Johnny Football was a thing, that whole mania, everything that came with him. It was like every week in College Station, you would have thought the damn Beatles were playing the Ed Sullivan Show as soon as Johnny Football lined up behind the center. I remember watching kids like totally ruin, I say careers, and I don't want to say ruin their careers because a lot of these kids weren't going to be playing collegiately, but like just doing stupid voodoo shit because they saw Johnny Manziel do it, right? If you want to do an NBA analogy, remember when Steph Curry ruined open gym runs because motherfuckers just wanted to pull up from 35? Folks, do not start. I'm just trying to make my case here. Please don't start doing 180 hurdles over defenders. There's nobody else who's going to be able to do that. Let's get back on the road here. One more team that I kind of want to throw out there, and I mean this with all due respect, right? The Washington Commanders have to be mentioned here after winning against the Giants today. I don't think the score was really indicative of how not close that game felt. Felt like Washington won by like 100. They didn't, though. Jaden Daniels threw a pair of touchdowns, a couple touchdowns there. But the Commanders are now 7-2. The Lions are but they're 7-1. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so we're kind of in the same boat. We're kind of in the same tier. Like, we're not. As team, like we're just not. I don't want to say that if these two teams lined up against each other that the Lions would kick the shit out of them, but I would certainly lean closer to that direction than I would Washington winning by like more than 3. But you have to mention them because they've been really fun. Cliff Kingsbury has been amazing as an offensive coordinator for Jaden Daniels. I was watching something the other day. I think it was it Get Up? Was that what it was? The Mike Greenberg. You got Alex Smith on there. It's not the same show. I don't remember what show it was. I was watching some ESPN programming the other day, and they referenced a conversation they had with Cliff Kingsbury to start the season. The first conversation that he had with Jaden Daniels after they drafted him was, I'm not going to tell you any of the shit that I want to install in this offense. I don't want to tell you anything about what we plan on doing this year. Give me 5 concepts that you ran at LSU that you feel comfortable that you could run tomorrow, right? Give me 5 formations, get 5 concepts that you know like the back of your hand. So Jaden Daniels did that. The first day of OTAs, that's what Cliff Kingsbury installed. So he's done a really, really good and efficient job of making Jaden Daniels feel comfortable with this transition from LSU to the NFL, which is something that you don't see from a lot of guys. You don't see that from a lot of coaches to have that, I don't want to say like empathy, but to, you know what I mean? To understand the perspective. And there's nobody better to, from that perspective than Cliff Kingsbury, I think, the guy who's had more success in college than he has, especially coaching some great quarterbacks, than he has in the NFL. So shout out to him for that. But I would say that those are the teams, right? Let's just go over it one more time. You have the Detroit Lions, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, you have the Baltimore Ravens. If you want to throw in the Eagles, they're not the best, but you know what I mean? Like they're kind of trailing. And then and the Bills, I threw the Bills in there too. And then you record-wise, you have to throw in the Commanders right now. There's a team out there that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. I don't think there's any. I think we maybe cover all the bases on that one. I think we covered all the bases on that one. Hey, speaking of beating the absolute shit out of people, where you're kind of like, what just happened? Like, what was that? Did you guys see this? Did you hear about this? That the NBA is investigating reports that Joel Embiid shoved a columnist, that he shoved a reporter. Yeah, Marcus Hayes, I guess, kind of like got in his ass a little bit digitally. And he wrote a column where he's like, how are Joel Embiid's kids going to view him? How is Joel Embiid's, I believe, late brother? Am I wrong about that? Okay, so then Joel Embiid and him kind of get into it in the locker room. And Embiid's like, I don't give a fuck what you guys say in the media. I don't care. And I guess Marcus Hayes was like, well, you clearly do. You clearly do. And Embiid gave him a little, on the shoulder. Gave him a little shove. But that's a lot of dude to be giving you a little You know what I mean? Okay. Can I give you another take? I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this one. I'm leaning towards like I might not be right about this, but I believe this. And I don't think I'm going to be swayed. Fair play by Joel Embiid, honestly. Fair play. Now, I'm not saying that it's good if NBA players and professional athletes go around and they start, assaulting journalists because they didn't like what they said about them. But like Marcus Hayes' job is to not to critique, but to cover Joel Embiid as a player and to cover the Philadelphia 76ers. It is not his job to talk about his family. And I think that's a really hard line in the sand that if you have real journalistic integrity, you won't cross that because you're going to leave people who have nothing to do with anything out of it. And I don't know. I feel somewhat empathetic. Not somewhat. I feel very empathetic to a guy like Joel Embiid for recognizing that somebody crossed that line and checking them on it. Like, what problem? And it's not, and him being like the other quote that I guess Embiid had I assume it was the locker room, he was like, if you do that shit again, like, you're going to see how I react and you're going to have to deal with the consequences. I don't want to say good, kill his motherfucking ass. I'm not saying that this is not me saying that. But if I was to say that, I don't think I would disagree with myself. Because at this point, not to do the whole Charlie Murphy thing, but if he does do it again and he becomes a habitual line stepper, then you know what I mean? It's time to crack some skulls. It's time to kill it's time to kill a journalist, Joel Embiid. We need to put a pin in this because it may need to go on the 2025 Motown Noah bingo card that Joel Embiid, or maybe we'll go a little bit broader, a professional athlete kills a journalist. Do we want to put that on there? How do we feel about that? Did you guys see the thing about, I don't want to say this. I don't want to put this out there because it doesn't matter. Yeah, I just think I'm on Embiid's side about this, actually. How do you guys feel about that? Still hasn't played a game. Still waiting to see Joel Embiid and Paul George playing a game for the Sixers. Since apparently I'm feeling a little bit sassy right now, I'm sure the guy who left this comment is a really nice guy. But you did say this, and I have to, and I did not think about this. I did not spend like an hour thinking about this and debating whether or not I should reply to your comment. I did not do that, so do not accuse me of doing that because I didn't. But the guy who, after the Pistons beat the Sixers, I was like, oh, the Sixers are fucking food. Heat them up in the microwave, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Guy was like, ooh, chill on my favorite team. Your favorite team is still poverty. So you lost to a poverty franchise? Yikes. That's fucking brutal. Oh my God, that's brutal. If I were you, I would fucking jump ship immediately. That's not what you think it is, brother. You can downplay my team all you want, but you're the one who lost to them. You know what I mean? So what does that say? It's like if you were a defensive back for the Green Bay Packers and you were like, just hypothetically, and you were like, I don't like that the Detroit Lions embarrass other teams. So the team that's been embarrassed nationally for the last 50 years gets like one little, they get a little window of opportunity where they just shit on everybody. The Lions kill everybody in front of them. And then the second they start doing that, now it's fuck us. How about it's fuck you as Xavier McKinney? Hypothetically, of course. Like you're telling me if the Browns, if the Cleveland Browns went out and were winning 100-0 every single week, that people would have a problem with it? No. That's America's team. The same way that the Lions are America's team. And at this point, if you don't like the Lions, I think that's a bigger reflection on you than it is on anybody else or anything else. Xavier McKinney, you fucking loser fraud. You loser fraud. Chill. Let's do some emails. copinghoursubs@gmail.com. Spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. This one comes into us from Noah. Noah, welcome to the show. Subject line, am I losing my mind? Hey, Nick, hope all is well. I'm experiencing something I've never experienced in my life. The Minnesota Timberwolves are good. And that's the end of the email. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a diehard lifelong Wolves fan who has stayed loyal and engaged through sub-20 win seasons, draft busts, injuries to promising young players and stars, criminality, mismanagement, just to watch one rebuild meld into another. And yet, we're here. Why don't I enjoy it as much as I thought? Don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely thrilled to have my hometown team I've loved my whole life be more than just competitive, but something feels off. I've grown so used to them. I've grown so used to going into every single game expecting a loss and just hoping to see something fun, whether it be a great highlight, a promising young player emerge, or just even hanging around with a good team long enough to make them sit up in the gaming chair right before they put us away in the end. God, that's so real. Back to the email. Now, when I turn on the Wolves, I feel stressed. I actually care if the team wins because winning actually matters. I'm still having fun. It's just not the same carefree, expectationless joy I got from watching the awful teams of the last 20 years. It's not how I expected to feel. P.S. Why no love for Apple Podcasts? I'm a YouTube watcher, but I feel like I've heard you say something like quote, never Apple Podcasts, unquote, before. Just curious. No video podcasts. Noah, that's why. Because Apple doesn't support video podcasts, and having the options matters to me a lot. And people being able to make the decision. Like when people are on Spotify and they're listening to this, right? And I throw something up on the screen. I'm like, hey, this is going to be up on the screen. If you want to, pause it and look at it, maybe you're driving or something right now, like whatever it is. It's really important to me that what's the word that I'm looking for here? But that variety is there for people. And until Apple supports it, and some of you are going to be like, I literally don't care about that at all. That doesn't, but I do. Right. And so that variety matters a lot to me. The option for you to watch it, if you do, does matter. It's a user experience thing. And so right now, as far as I'm aware, Spotify is that, surely maybe Amazon does, but Spotify is the only platform that allows for video podcasts. So let's get to your actual email here. Why doesn't it feel as engaging? Why doesn't it feel as exciting? Because there's a new bar, brother. Now you're expecting them to be good. There's a new precedent that's been set. I would say, I'm sure Pacers fans are kind of in the same boat as you right now, where you go to a Western Conference, if you're a Pacers fan, an Eastern Conference Finals. And so now the sneaky take here is that if you're a reasonable person as a Pacers fan, you know that like there's a non-zero chance that was a flash in the pan Eastern Conference Finals run. And like the odds of that happening again, especially like this year, are low. Winning 2 playoff series and then getting throttled by the Celtics. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in getting throttled by the Celtics, especially because they ended up going on to win a championship. For all intents and purposes, looks like, about 2 weeks into the season, looks like that might happen again. There's no shame in it, right? It happens. But if that's your expectation for this year as a Pacers fan, you're probably going to set yourself up to fail. So as a Timberwolves fan, I don't mean to keep talking about the Lions, but that's the only experience I have for you right now is like, yeah, I am really excited every single week to watch these games, but the way that I react when I'm watching them is completely different. When the team is, 4-12 and we suddenly have like a frisky game, like you get up for it more because you've been waiting all season for like this performance from this team or this individual guy, right? And then when you finally get it, like what that payoff feels like. But then when you have expectations either in your head or nationally, there are expectations the way that there are for the Timberwolves this year, it's the stress and it's the pressure as a fan of like, what if we don't live up to that? Especially when it's, obviously as a fan, it's completely out of your control. There's nothing that you can do about it. So if I'm a Timberwolves fan, I'm also like you are, right? I'm looking at it through the lens of not just the national expectations, not just the fan expectations that you have as a diehard, but I'm also thinking like, what if this doesn't work and we gave up all that capital for Rudy Gobert? Like what if that, and that's a shitty thing for me to say because it is working. It just is. There's really no evidence to suggest that it hasn't worked or isn't going to work. You know what I mean? Like, seems like things are going to be going well in that department. And then it's even like, also, are you somewhat maybe protective of a guy like Anthony Edwards? Do you think? I'm actually asking here. That's a piece of it where the Globe looks at a guy like Anthony Edwards. And what do they all say about him? They say, if you want to talk about a guy in the NBA who's next up, who's going to be in the top 3 players, maybe the number 1 player for the next 10 years, once the Stephs and the KDs, the LeBrons, even though, those aren't the number 1 guys, but you know what I mean? Once this next generation is officially the one with their hand on the flag, like that guy could be Anthony Edwards. I'm sure there's some like intrinsic pressure and stress, like making sure that he keeps being the guy that he is, which again, similar to the Rudy Gobert thing, there's nothing to suggest that that's not going to be the case because he fucking rules. But maybe that's a piece of this too. Just to circle back to the beginning though, I think it really is just once your team gets over that hump and they solidify themselves, they plant the flag as like we are a good team now, by the way, and you do have to take us seriously. I'm sure Oklahoma City fans feel the same way. 3 years ago, they were winning 20 games. 2 years ago, they were winning 40 games. And a year ago, they won, did they get to 60? They won upwards of 60 games, right? And so what are the expectations for Oklahoma City this year? Shea needs to be like top 2 in MVP voting. I don't know, depending on how things go, maybe he can get away with top 3, but like he's got to be up there. People are talking about it. And then they also have to, I keep bumping the table. I'm really sorry if that is picking up. They also I guess have to get to the Western Conference Finals, I guess, which is crazy when you think about it, because again, all this shit that we just said about how they've been the last few years, like last year is like, wow, they won a playoff series. Like, wow, that was really cool. This team is really young. This team is inexperienced. And some of you out there may not think that matters, but when you get into the dog days of the NBA playoffs, fuck the regular season, you're playing like a quarter to a third of an entire NBA season, right? Yeah, about a quarter of an additional NBA season. That shit is exhausting. The travel, that's not that much travel, I guess, because you're just going between 2 cities, but you're playing this, it's a repetition thing, you know? It's a war of attrition once you get to the second round. Fuck the conference finals and fuck the finals. Once you get to the second round, you're like, dog, we're still doing this. God forbid you went 7 games. So it's even crazy to have that expectation on Oklahoma City. But A, that's the world that we live in. B, that is also how good Oklahoma City has been. And C, I don't have anything else. So as a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, I think you're valid to be feeling this way, because it's like, okay, so we've finally done it, especially as a Timberwolves fan who's like, you haven't really been there. What was the thing about Karl Anthony Towns when you compare him to Kevin Garnett? It's like they won the same amount of playoff series. Was it games or was it series? Either, well, that would probably go hand in hand. That's crazy. Right? So the precedent for success, the bar as a Timberwolves fan is what? Winning a playoff series? I don't know. And any game that you feel like that's slipping away, yeah, man, that's gonna feel pretty daunting. Let's stay on another NBA email here. This one comes into us from Jackson. Jackson, welcome to the show. Subject line, New York subway. Hey, Nick, don't know if this was on your radar or not, but today the Pistons had to take the subway to Barclays Center because of the New York City Marathon. Theoretically, with no phones, which Piston do you believe could get the team from the hotel to Barclays? My pick is Tobias Harris. I will not explain. This is just how I feel. Jackson, I have devastating news for you. Well, it's simultaneously devastating and exceptional. The devastating part of this is that I have no input. But the exceptional part is because you fucking nailed this. I completely agree with you. It is 100% Tobias Harris. It's just like the vet thing. If I was like 12 years old, I would be like, it's like the unk vibes that he gives off, right? No, it's definitely Tobias. I would say sneaky, I would put... Ivy does seem like a dweeb. In an endearing way, Jaden Ivey kind of seems like a dweeb, and he would lick his finger. Where's the wind going? Which direction is this going? My other answer would be Simone Fontecchio, just because Europe. Feel like, although he's Italian. Well, Christopher Columbus was Italian. That's not true. He was Spanish. Yeah, he was Spanish, and he loved spice, and he loved killing Native Americans. What was the third thing that he loved? America, honestly. Christopher Columbus loved spices, killing Native Americans, and America. Who does that sound like? I was going to make a Timothée Chalamet joke because, like, Dune and Spice. No. Quentin Tarantino with his horse shit Dune take where he's like, I watched the original. I don't need to watch a movie where they say spice 50 times. Fucking bum. I mean, no, because he's Quentin Tarantino and like he's not a bum. But shut up. Because I was that guy. I didn't watch the first Dune for a while because I was like, I saw the original. I don't need to see this shit. And then eventually I did. And I was like, that was fucking awesome. And then I saw Dune Part 2 and I was like, that might be the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. From like a spectacle perspective. Are you kidding me? It's going to win every Oscar. Don't even watch the Oscars this upcoming year. Don't even watch them. Was it going to be like February when that airs? when that comes out, maybe March. It's about February, March. Don't even watch the Oscars in 2025 because it's just going to be Dune, except for Best Original Score. They said Hans Zimmer did in illegality by using like unoriginal pieces or something like that in his score, so it didn't actually count. Let's do another email. copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. This one comes into us from Matthew. Matthew, welcome to the show. Subject line, a few points. Hey, Nick. Big fan from the Oregon coast. Wondering if there are any other Coping Hour fans from around these parts. Can't believe my alma mater Ducks are number one. I felt Oregon sports are very cursed and have been as long as I can remember. Always falling short, always an injury holding a club back. And I'm happy to hear your city having some success in their sports. It inspired me as a fan to have hope that things will, parenthetically, or have, close parentheses, turned around. But maybe that's just my personal Coping Hour. I'm wondering if when your children are the age to play sports, if you'd be into coaching any of them. Do you have any desire? As a middle school basketball coach, I'm loving it and trying to inspire them to love the game even half as much as I love it. I feel like you've got to dip your feet in at some point. It's keeping me going. Also, maybe we should do this one at a time. Let's do this one at a time. Would I want to coach my son in any sport that he played? Yeah, because I did coach for a little bit. I coached a Little League football team. I was an assistant. I don't even know how many, maybe a couple of years ago. This is a while ago. And it was really, really fun. It was really cool. The thing that was tricky, though, is we were teaching a lot of kids like fundamentals and stuff because it was a lot of their like first year. That's the part where I'm like, I'm not really there for that. I don't want to teach these kids to not hip drop, but drop their hips, get square, get your shoulders square. And then you do the drills where you, for those of you, you football players out there, you guys remember the drills where you would stand in front of each other and then, one of you would just kind of stand there kind of limp and then you would have to like break down and then wrap up on the guy and like pick them up and drive them back like 3 yards. We're teaching them shit like that. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, this isn't really what I want to do, but it's definitely fun. And what stinks is we're just probably not going to let him play football. His mom doesn't want him to play football. And yeah, I mean, it's tough. You watch some of these kids get their fucking heads taken off. And I'm just like, dude, that kid's parents are in the crowd right now. That's always hard. It's always hard. You watch a quarterback like get rolled up on and his knee is just gone. He's a 5th-year senior. And they always cut to his mom in the crowd. It breaks my heart. It's just really hard. You don't want your kid to have to go through something like that. And we don't want to have to go through something like that. But my beef is that Maddie had 100 concussions playing soccer. 100 of them. I had 1 playing football. But he's not allowed to play football, and he could play. I mean, I get it. She was a goalie, so that's like part of it. There's one where she got kicked. She was like going to save the ball, and somebody kicked it up into her face, and her teeth like went through like her mouth. I don't know. It's crazy. She just like was basically like she was like the Bar Hamlin for a little bit, but then she was chill. She was also like fucking I don't know if it was 11, but she was like a kid. When I got a concussion. You know what's crazy? Dog, I didn't realize until I'm 26. I didn't realize until I was 24 that when you were a kid playing football and the coaches would be like, oh, you just got your bell rung, like you're fine. That meant that you probably had a motherfucking concussion. Oh, you just got your bell rung. No, dog, like I need medical. My brain is bleeding right now. I might have CTE. I'm 9. I'm 9 years old. Yeah, coaching would be fun. I actually applied here in Chicago within the last couple of years. I applied to be a high school head coach for basketball. Probably for the best. I didn't have any certifications or anything. I was just kind of like, oh, that'd be fun. I think it was like maybe during COVID or something. I was like, I could coach a basketball team. Hell no, I couldn't have coached a basketball team. They made the right decision. Let's get back to your email here. Also, is Isaiah Stewart a real player? Do you think if he was in a winning/better situation, would he contribute as a top 8 guy on a contender? I feel like he's a perfect third big type like Bobby Portis. That's the take, right? I've always thought of him as a like a Nas Reed type. And I've had to check myself in the past and ask myself if I'm doing a mini racism just because it's a hair thing. Like the whole Jaden Ivey, Ja Morant thing when Jaden Ivey came into the league and people were like, Jaden Ivey's literally Ja Morant. And you're like, really? Because they both like tie their hair up and are like, they just are like guards who go to the hole. That's it. And then Jaden Ivey cut his hair and nobody really says that he's like Ja Morant anymore. Okay. And so Nas Reed and Isaiah Stewart, just like two really uber aggressive dudes who like have long hair. And I'm like, they're literally the same player. They're kind of not, but I do agree with you that how you framed Isaiah Stewart is, I think, the intended way. And I don't think he's going to be here for that much longer just because why do I feel that way? No, that's not true. I do feel that way, but it's because I'm influenced by the fans and Pistons fans fucking hate him, which breaks my heart because he's like probably my second favorite guy on the team, Isaiah Stewart. I wish he got more. It's tricky. Because I wish he got more opportunity to shoot threes. But then you are like, well, the reason that he started to shoot so many threes was because literally nobody else could, and like teams would just leave him open. But then you started to figure out like why they would leave him open, because then they just kind of like started to not really go in that much. And now teams, first of all, he just doesn't get the ball. Second of all, he just doesn't get to hang out around the perimeter. Third of all, teams would still leave him open, but then he's smart enough to pass out of it. And fourth of all, he just doesn't get the ball. Did I say that yet? Yeah, he's a real player. I believe it's kind of like the Jaden Ivey thing that I've said before, which is the same thing that I said about Justin Fields, which is it's going to really suck when it happens somewhere else for this guy. But I worry that that's the trajectory that we're going on with Isaiah Stewart. So finally, back to the email. A take about my Blazers. Scoot Henderson might just be a better Eric Bledsoe, but that's not a bad thing. He has had some super productive minutes coming in behind Simons, and I feel it's been a great opportunity for him. It's kind of weird watching and cheering on these guys that are 6-7 years younger than us as cornerstones of our franchise, but it is great perspective on how difficult this league is and how talented these kids are. When I was 19, I was a fucking idiot. And then you also said, just had a pork belly risotto arrive at my table, typing this at a restaurant, waiting for a Blazer game to come on. Thank you for all that you do. You bring some life to my monotonous weekdays, from Matthew. Thank you very much for this. Love the idea that this guy is just fucking furiously typing at the waiter's like, he's like, water is empty. The waiter's like, need more water? He's like, huh? What did you say? He's like looking up for, what the fuck did you say? I'm fine. Leave me alone. And then his risotto shows up. He's like, oh, gotta finish up this email. Anyways, I thought what you said at the end here was honestly really really good perspective, because I don't think I'm kind of past the point of thinking about the fact that most of these kids are younger than me. When they were the same age as me is when it really fucked with me. But now I'm just kind of like, I'm very kind of like what you said at 19, I was a fucking idiot. I'm very at peace with like the fact that I wasted a lot of time when I was at the age that a lot of these kids were like grinding harder than they've ever grinded in their lives. First of all, because I don't have a capacity for it. Second of all, because I don't have the ability or the talent for it. And third of all, because it's not even that I had fun as a 19-year-old, I guess, because I was working at Hot Topic when I was 19. I was either unemployed or working at Hot Topic. And it wasn't even when I got my managerial bag. I would have still been, dog, let me tell you something. I was the retail king. God damn, I'm basically just doing my own thing at this point, Matthew. So hope you enjoyed me reading your email. I was the retail king. If you gave me a seasonal position, I didn't even sweat it. I was like, that's fine, because in 3 months, you're going to hire my ass. Like, I'm going to be working here part or full time. The whole seasonal thing to me didn't even clock. I was like, no, I just work here, by the way, because I am a really good soldier. If you tell me what to do, I will do it better than anybody else. If you give me the ball and ask me to show you some initiative, I'm fucked, right? But what's retail? You're a grunt. That's what you are. So whether it was Nike, hired as seasonal, brought me on as part-time, eventually I never, because of the age that I was when I was working there, I was never allowed to end up, coming on for like 40 plus hours a week. But there were still, plenty of weeks where I ended up working 40 hours because I was reliable, right? And then I'm out of the game for a couple of years. I go to Hot Topic. They hired me for Black Friday. My first shift was Black Friday. I'm working the register on a Black Friday in a mall. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, I don't know this POS at all. I don't know anything about this interface or what our sales are. Like, who are you people? Like, I don't even know. I worked a 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, which is such a horseshit. Malls, I think they've started to slowly kind of dial that back, but our mall opened at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving, and I worked till 4 a.m. on Black Friday. And then I ended up coming back in from 2 to 10. So I did 2 shifts on horseshit. Right. And this is my first shift. And so I left that shift knowing like, yeah, they're going to keep me around. Yeah, dog. After like a fucking month, they were like, do you want to be a key holder? Obviously I do, because I'm the best retail employee of all fucking time. And then I stayed there for a while, and then I left that job because we moved to Chicago. I'm working for the Cubs up at damn Wrigley, seasonal position, right? To end out the season. I was there for probably like the last 2-3 months of the Cubs regular season in 2019 up at Wrigley. I'm working games. I'm working in a union. It's cool as hell on some real casual vibes. And then suddenly, what do they say to me? They're like, Nick, you're the best motherfucker that we have on the sales floor. Yeah, because I'm sweet as hell, because you guys always tell me what to do, and I do it better than anybody else, and I'm not a little shithead about it, right? At the time, I'm 21 or something like that. So I'm like, yeah, like I get how this works. I'm great at it. And then, okay, so Nick, how did that job end? COVID? Yeah. Lost that job because of coronavirus. Pandemic happened, and then they were like, well, we don't need people to work here anymore. And they sent us, HR sent us a huge email, and they're like, apply for unemployment because you will qualify for it. And so I was like, word. And so this is probably like a week after Woj is like, the NBA shut down, the world shuts down, right? We're like a week into the Pandulce. And I file for unemployment, and the government told me that I did not make enough money to qualify for unemployment. What the fuck is that? What is that? So first of all, why did you tell me to do it? Second of all, what the hell is that? I don't want like a real response to that, because I'm sure if I really sat down and thought about it, I could just, but at this point it's become more of a funny anecdote that I did not make enough money prior to applying rather for unemployment to even qualify for it in the first place. What the hell kind of rigged system is this? What is this? Folks, before we get out of here today, there's another email I think I wanted to read. Before we get out of here today, I've talked about Ghost of Tsushima, which is how I learned is Tsushima, not Tsushima. That's like the very Americanized way to say it. Is Tsushima. Tsushima. Is that racist? I don't think I need to do the voice. Well, you have to. Hold on. Ghost of Tsushima. No, you don't have to do it. Ghost of Tsushima. Yep, you do not have to do it. Confirmed. It's like Mythbusters. Does it have to be racist, or can you do it not racist? You don't have to do it racist. Racism busted. Anyways, back to the point. So I beat that game, and some of you, a surprising number of you, I appreciated this actually, were like, hey, what are you going to play next? And I was like, oh, I didn't know I was going to play anything next. I thought I was just going to play more MLB The Show, and that's it. And play some College Football 25, which I haven't talked about in a while. I gave you guys a very good long break for me talking about College Football 25, all right? But I have like a lot of hours in that game. An amount of hours that it's like 300 hours. I've played that game a lot. So much time in College Football 25. But anyways, so yeah, I kind of started to get a weird itch. And then I had a light bulb moment. I was like, Nick, re-download Starfield. That's like your favorite game ever. You fucking love Starfield. Everybody hated it. Universally, people hated it. And I was like, oh, yeah, and they just had a DLC come out. And I remembered when Starfield came out, they were like, and all of the DLC that we come out, which they had already announced Shattered Space at the time. They were like, it'll be free. And I was like, oh, cool. So I go to download Starfield. That shit was not free. It's like $40. I was like, hell no, I'm not paying for this. Hell no, I'm not paying for this. So, okay, the problem with Starfield is that it on my PC is like 140 to like 160 gigs, like somewhere in that window. Oh, brother, god damn, that's a lot of space. Like, what am I playing, 2K? What a crock of shit that is. That 2K is always like 150 plus gigs. I don't even want to know what the new one is. It's got to be north of 200. It was like 180 gigs. And 165 of that is just the park. I don't need to do this. Everybody's talked about it a million times. The dead horse has been beaten. I don't need to talk about how stupid that franchise is. So, okay, so I played Starfield for like a week and a half. This was like recently, right? And I'm in the trenches. I'm like, God damn, this game is just so much fun to me. I just love landing on a planet and like going around. And they added a rover, so like you can actually, there's a little vehicle you got outside of your ship. And so you're not just running around. Now you can drive around, and it's got like NAS and hydraulics and shit. And it's really fun. Be a little space pirate. Use console commands, just like make it your own game, like just have fun and like build ships. And which that's the thing is Starfield is that's the origin story of the whole. Does this count as playing the game? Me building a ship. That does not count as me playing the game. That's me setting up the game. Even if I do it for 2 hours, I'm not playing the game. I'm setting this up so that I can play the game later. Don't need to get back into this thing again. But then, okay, so you're setting this up like you're not playing Starfield anymore. Fucking, I don't know how to phrase this in a way that doesn't make me sound like I'm mad, because I'm not. So Jacob, aka Rusty Buckets, hits me with a video like a week ago. And then it ended up being like they had to film it in 2 parts. The goddamn file ended up being like 40 gigs for me, because the video was over an hour long. I spent, first of all, the amount of time I had to spend editing that thing, that's not the point. But, okay, so hour-long video, I cannot get it to export from Premiere for the life of me. I've cleared as much storage as I possibly can. This file is too big. I just can't get it to export. I'm like, this video needs to go up like ASAP. I just can't get it to work, right? So I'm like, the only thing I have left to do is to delete Starfield off of my hard drive. Oh, it takes me like 8 hours to download the game in the first place, get to play it for a week, and then I have to fucking delete it so that I can goddamn publish this video. So that's what I did. And then it's like, okay, well, do I want to spend an equal amount of time re-downloading the game just for something like this to happen again? It's the middle of the season. Who knows how long these videos are going to be that Jacob sends me. So I fucking can't play Starfield. So I was like, okay, so what else can I play? I have not played a Call of Duty since Modern Warfare, like the newest one, 2019. That game was awesome. Everybody loved it. Universally, it was loved. Had a lot of fun with multiplayer. Obviously, Warzone. The campaign was really fun. Didn't play MW2, didn't play Cold War, didn't play MW3. None of that shit. I didn't play any of it because I was like, as far as I'm concerned, Call of Duty is for kids at this point, or like streamers. I do not have the mental capacity to keep up with the movement tech, the Omni movement that's now in Black Ops 6. Like, I don't. This is not why I play video games, is to get shit on. I'm playing video games. I'm playing sports games on the lowest difficulty because I'm doing this to have fun, and Call of Duty does not provide that for me anymore because it's not the game that I grew up with at this point, right? But then I downloaded Black Ops 6. Haven't played it yet. I'm going to play it for the first time when I'm done taping this. So maybe by the next time I see you guys, I will have something to say about Black Ops 6. I've delivered some bad takes, not bad takes, just maybe some disagreeable ones. You want another boomer take? I will not touch zombies. I'm not going to touch it. That shit died after Black Ops 2. For me, the gobblegum shit, even that was a step too far. Nope. No. Next. And I realized, man, I still watch the YouTubers. But, like, the people who, man, gobblegum, the best thing that ever happened to, I guess. I just miss when I had my little train area and I could have 4 perks. That was it. And there were, like, 5 perks on the map. To me, Ascension. That's it. I want Ascension for every Zombies map ever. That's what I want. I want Kino der Toten every single map. Black Ops 2, was that Mob of the Dead, or was that 3? That had to have been Black Ops 2, right? Black Ops 2 Zombies was perfectly fine. I had no problems with Black Ops 2 Zombies. But Black Ops 1 Zombies was like, that was, because I was in 6th or 7th grade, so it's just a nostalgia thing for me. You know? Yeah, shit's not as cool as it was when you were a kid, because when you were a kid, everything was the coolest thing in the world, and now everything is dumb and lame and catered to children, the same children that I'm mad that I don't have that anymore, that feeling anymore, that sense of wonder anymore. Everything's about fucking microtransactions and like, what am I doing making loadouts and zombies? Fuck that. That's so lame. What am I doing putting in armor plates? What, I get a chopper gunner and zombies? What happened to the game that I love, man? That shit bums me the hell out. Carry the hell on. Ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, folks. If you are... Hey, let's do another thing for Spotify. You Spotify listeners have been really good about leaving funny comments. By funny, I just mean you say what I tell you to say. This week, on this week's edition of Here's What the Spotify Commenters Should Say. Spotify commenters... leave Pythagorean's theorem. What is it? Just leave that in the comments. Don't Google it. Spotify will tell me. Spotify for podcasters will tell me, using their new fancy artificial intelligence, it will tell me if you Google Pythagorean's theorem and then copy paste it. I will know if you do that. All right? And then you'll be perma-banned for life. But if you do know it off the top of your head, Pythagorean's theorem over in the Spotify comments, which I do know now where you guys are physically leaving them on the app. So if you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to... We got to 400 reviews. Yes. Yes. Thank you guys for that. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to leave 5 stars. Nice little comment over there. Pythagorean's theorem. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. And I will catch you guys in the next one.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm ready to control. Beautiful. I'm ready to control. Beautiful. I'm ready to control.